The growing practice of transnational adoption can be understood through a simple supply and demand equation. This equation operates on a global scale where individuals, usually white, from rich nations adopt individuals, usually not white, from poor nations. While the equation might be simple, this is a complicated exchange where children, the governments of two nations, both sets of parents, birth and adopted, usually to adoption agencies, adoption workers, social workers, child care providers, attorneys, and a host of other intermediaries might be involved. Typically, everyone is compensated either monetarily, materially, or socially, creating a complex economic relationship. Adoptive parents pay for the services associated with the adoption they are completing and are willing to do so because it gives them the opportunity to build a family and because of the tremendous demand for children in rich nations. This demand is created by the enormous cultural pressure to complete one's life with family, which always includes children. The relative shortage of, quote, healthy white infants in rich nations, social anxiety about domestic transracial adoption, and I argue white parents' desire to enrich their lives by parenting a child from a foreign culture. This demand is met with supply from foreign nations around the world, where the potential to procure healthy infants is great and the possibilities for realizing a healthy profit are just as great. Regrettably, the demand is so great that illegal baby markets have developed as child trafficking, and in many legal transnational adoptions, child procurement and adoption payments border on or cross the border to be unethical. This chapter uses transnational adoption guides as a primary source for understanding how parents navigate the maze of the adoption marketplace. So these are kind of like, you know, if you're thinking about adoption, how to adopt from China or how to adopt from Korea. The adoption guides represent material publicly available to parents who seek practical advice on a complicated and expensive undertaking. Because these guides are such a valuable resource to prospective adoptive parents, I see them as playing a key instructional role. My intent is to analyze the messages that are sent to parents through these guides and critique these messages and their limitations, especially in the light of the failure to consult adult transnational adoptees who remain an untapped source of knowledge. I'm in a unique position for researching transnational adoption as I am a transnational and transracial adoptee myself. I was adopted from South Korea in 1971 at the age of 7 months. My interest in the history and practice of transnational adoption and transracial adoption stems from my own life experiences, including the sense that my experience has been largely represented through the filtered views of adoptive parents, adoption workers, and other researchers. I've also had the good fortune to connect with several other adult adoptees in the last 10 years. We have our own perspective about our experiences, and I intend to counter the misrepresentation we've encountered when other researchers inject their interests and agendas into their work about us. I cannot claim impartiality, nor would I argue could most adoption researchers. But I do have a great interest in uncovering truth about adoption practices and adoptee experiences as any researcher. Because I'm critical of researchers who do not reveal their personal stake in their research, I feel compelled to reveal mine. I neither support nor condemn the practice of transracial and transnational adoption, but I believe strongly that the power differentials between parents and children, institutions and individuals, white people and people of color, and rich and poor nations are great enough that the potential for abuse is enormous. I also believe that adult adoptees have an important role to play in challenging these abuses, and that an unsentimental critique of the current practice of transnational adoption is a critical first step. So that's kind of the introduction to my piece, so if you kind of wanted all the juicy details, you'll have to read it. I was solicited for this piece for the book quite a while ago. It was like almost 3 years ago. And one of the things that I just wanted to note, since I have kind of a captive audience here, is that in the past 3 years, all this, not just Outsiders Within coming out, but all this other fabulous stuff has happened in the world of transracial and transnational adoption. And for me, kind of as a historian of adoption, I feel compelled to report some of these things to you. Among other things, there's kind of a whole new crop of transracial and transnational adoptees who've gotten their PhDs and are starting to bring the experience and talk about the experience and research the experience of adoption into higher education. The oldest Korean adoptee organization in the world, which is in Sweden, had their 20th birthday this year. I had the pleasure to attend with actually Shannon Gibney, who I think is backstage now, who just read the first conference on adoption culture and literature, which was last year in Florida. Korean and Chinese adoption has become this really intense topic of interest in Asian American studies, which I think is kind of a big deal because despite the fact that as transracial adoptions we are Asian American, African American, American Indian, and Latino American, those fields and universities haven't, till now, been very interested in what's happened to us, so it's exciting news. Another really great thing is adult adoptee bloggers have taken on cyberspace and created this fabulous vocal community that's really representing their experiences and is, is piquing a lot of interest because, of course, now like blogging is the way to be. The IAC, the Intercountry Adoption Conference, which is the first kind of national group of transnational adoptees from all over the world, has convened for the first time. I think that was just last month. Also, ICA, a consortium of international Korean adoptee organizations, has finally agreed to host a research conference as part of their big international conference. And then also, this week, here at the University of Minnesota, there's a brand new Korean adoptee group, a brand new Korean adoptee student group that just had their first event, which was just a couple of days ago. So there's a lot of exciting stuff happening. I'm really excited about all of that. And I guess my last thing that I want to do here, like I said, since I have you as a captive audience, is I really want to encourage the adoptees who I know some of you are in this room, who are going to be the next generation of writers, artists, researchers, and activists. Take the torch that we're offering you and continue to tell your story as an adoptee. Continue to tell your story as a person of color in America. I know that we can make a difference with each other. That's already, I feel like I've already witnessed that as I've seen everything come together in Outsiders Within. And I really encourage you, take it and keep going with it. Thanks a lot.